Perfect. Welcome everyone. Excited to kick off our pitch presentation today. This is going to be principles of pitching, and we have our host Brenden Kumarasamy, and we're hosted here by Prepare for VC and Boston New Technology. So Prepare for VC is an organization I founded just about 7 years ago now, and we help startups with one-on-one services, cohort-based programs like our virtual accelerator, and a big emphasis on startup communities and connections to resource partners, experts, and even just learning from other entrepreneurs at the same stage and at um, higher stages than you, so you can keep helping each other out while you help yourself and learn in your business. The other group is Boston New Technologies, an event organization and startup community based here in Boston that's been around 11 years and has really grown to be a resource in the community where we do startup showcase and demo events, an environment where you can learn and build connections at an early stage. We also do a lot of workshops and events with different speakers and try to provide the right resources for the community, and also share other events and opportunities that are going on where we can all collaborate and help each other out. So yeah, excited. Today's format's going to be a quick introduction to pitching and Brendan's perspectives on how you should present, and some of his tips and tricks while you're going through that process. And then we're going to have three three presentations from the audience here today. So we're going to be hearing from Jack Duffy Proentis, Gerald Shapiro, and Dr. Abdullah Mayet, where each of them are going to be able to present their startup in a 5-minute presentation and then get feedback from Brenden that will also be valuable to everybody in the audience as we hear, what's gone well, what areas to improve, and some tips to take it forward in your next presentation. So yeah, Gerald asked a question about screen sharing, right? So yes, when you're up on stage, and we're going to call everybody in order, you're going to be given the option to present your screen directly, and that can either be any format, slides, PDF, PowerPoint, whatever works best for you. So yeah, with that, excited to hand it over to Brenden to kick us off. And as we're getting going, please introduce yourselves in the chat as well, and share a little bit about what you're working on as we get started here.
Thanks so much, Jason. It's such a pleasure to be a part of the Prepare for VC community. Looking forward to hosting more sessions like this and adding more value to everyone here. So just really quick, I don't want to spend too much time on me because the focus is on you and the feedback. So my name is Brenden Kumarasamy. I'm the founder of MasterTalk. MasterTalk is both a YouTube channel and a coaching practice I started to help the world master the art of communication and public speaking. I think the next Elon Musk is a 7-year-old girl who can't afford me. And the reason I started MasterTalk was for all of you. So when I was in college, I was a part of a student-run VC firm called Front Row Ventures. That was the seed. It was a 600K seed fund based out of Real Ventures, which is one of the biggest VC firms in Canada. Think of it like dorm room fund, but for Canada. And that's where I learned a lot of the lessons on how to pitch, because I was coaching a lot of startup CEOs on how to succinctly explain and communicate their ideas in a way that someone who has zero industry expertise in what they're doing could easily get it. But I found a gap in the market. And the gap in the market, especially for that specific community who are much younger, is they needed help with their pitch, but they also couldn't afford a coach. So I looked at the market and I said, there must be a way to solve this. Because if the next Elon Musk or insert founder here doesn't have access to free pitch resources, how are they supposed to get better? So I started MasterTalk on a whim. I just started making videos in my mother's basement. I never thought it would amount to anything. And then a few years later, MasterTalk turned into what it is. Today the channel has a lot of subscribers, and we've had a lot of success with it. I coach a lot of CEOs and founders now. on how to pitch, but more importantly, communicate their ideas in a way. So before I get started, let me just give my 3 tips that I share with every CEO I work with that you should just do on a consistent basis, whether you're getting started, whether you're raising your Series B. A lot of my focus, by the way, just so we're clear on my expertise, is I'm a lot better at pre-seed and seed decks. So if you're raising your A or your B, I can still give you a lot of help in today's presentation. But a lot of those raises are a lot more metrics driven, whereas I'm a lot more story driven, seeing what's missing from the pitch so people understand what you're doing. So let me start with the first piece. And a lot of these are simple ideas, but it's so simple, nobody does them in the startup ecosystem. So the first one is studying your competition. So what does that mean concretely? Every time when I look at a CEO and they're trying to work on their deck, I just ask them really simply, do you book 15 minutes in your calendar every week to watch how your competitors pitch a similar idea? So the way that I think about it is the best way to explain the future is to understand the past. So what does that mean? When Steve Jobs first introduced the iPhone in an era where nobody understood what the iPhone was, like the late 10s, right? 2008, 2009 era, how did he pitch it? If you watch that pitch carefully, he compared it to BlackBerry. Hey, this is what BlackBerry's having right now. This is the phone that's in everyone's pocket. But wait a second, you don't need tactile keyboards. It ruins the feed experience, it ruins the device. You need something like without a tactile keyboard. This is the future. And then he said, you have the like, I love it, Jason. Right. So we have what? The phone, we have the internet, and we have music. And then he looked at the crowd and he said, these 3 things are not 3 different devices. It's one device, and we're calling it the iPhone. So what Steve Jobs did, because he understood his competition and how other people pitch his own ideas, he saw the flaws in them so that he could pitch his idea better. So book 15 minutes in your calendar while you're eating lunch and just watch other startups pitch your own idea so that you can get ideas from them on how to pitch your ideas better. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, then I'll give tip number 3 and we'll get started with the pitching right away. Unless Jason wants to jump in with the thought here. Number 2 is the question drill. You're all good. Yeah. So the second one is the question drill. We get asked questions all the time as founders. And I want all of us to reframe what we mean by pitching, because it's not just about saying we're going to a Zoom call and we're presenting an idea, or we're going to a demo day and we're showcasing our work. Question drills are more importantly when you're having casual one-on-one conversations and they're asking you questions, the VCs, the investors, your customers, about who you are, what you're doing, and even key employees and employees as well. Why should I work for your company? Why should I work for yours versus another? So the question drill is actually what solidified my expertise in my field. All you have to do is every single day, team, answer one question that you think the world would ask you about your expertise, your products, or your services. So let me give you an example. Day 1, what's the question I asked myself? Where does the fear of communication come from? Okay, that's day 1. Day 2 for me was, what tips do you have for introverts? So I did that every day. But if you do that for 5 minutes every single day for a year, team, you'll have answered 365 questions about your industry. You'll be bulletproof. So if you're a CEO right now and you're thinking about how do I apply this, day 1, ask yourself what the business model is in excruciating detail. Day 2 is what problem are you solving for? Day 3 is comment on your traction. What are the progress that you've made? Number 4, what's your vision? Where do you think the industry is going? That's 2. So let's recap so far what we've learned. Number 1 is the question drill. When you drill more questions, you get the insights you're looking for. Number 2, study your competition. The best way to explain a future that doesn't exist yet to everybody but yourself and your founding team is to understand the past. I'll give you another example, right? Alicia's going, dude, so I'm glad you're enjoying this. It's good, right? So I'll give you an example of this. Let's take Netflix. So there's 2 ways of explaining Netflix. You could explain Netflix like this. Okay, hi team. So Netflix is a high technological product that focuses on streaming technology, and we use different UI interfaces on how to manage the algorithm to make sure that the best personalized. So notice there's a lot of fancy words that are not necessary. Or if you read Hastings, you do what he did. You look at the crowd, you go, are you tired of driving 20 minutes to a Blockbuster, realizing that your favorite movie is already rented out, and when you figure out what movie you want, you forget. Thanks, Shirley. You forget to give the movie back, so you have to pay late fees. Are you tired of that experience? Well, with Netflix, ladies and gentlemen, not only will you never have to leave the comfort of your own house, you'll have unlimited movies and TV shows at the low cost of $9.99 a month. So forget about late fees because you'll never be late. Notice what Reed is doing there, team. He's explaining the past and it's showing as a visionary that that past is no longer what you need to be doing. So we focus on the future. So when somebody who's stuck in the past who loves Blockbuster listens to that pitch, you go, oh my God, I should totally use Netflix. It's the same thing here. Google, I'll do one more. I can do this all day, but I want to get to the pitches, right? Let's say we take, right, Blockbuster on demand, Dave. Great point. So I'll give you another example. Amazon, right? So every other person in the .com era didn't know how to pitch an online store. They said, "Oh my God, you can buy TVs." Well, the guy in 1999 or the gal in 1999 is like, "Why would I buy a TV online? What if somebody steals my credit card number? Why did I pay $1,500?" Whereas Jeff Bezos looked at the crowd and said, "Think about your local bookstore. Think about all of the books there. If you have a really niche taste, do they really have every book that you're looking for?" The answer is probably no. Where at Amazon, our collection is unlimited. Any book that you could want and desire is there. It's really easy to ship and free returns. What do you think? Oh my God, I need to try Amazon. I can't get these books anywhere else. I have to use it. Even if I'm scared of giving my credit card number, it's 1999. I don't want to share my details with anyone, but I really want that book because my local bookstore doesn't have it. That's the key, team. Question drills, study your competition. The founder today who's spending 50 minutes a week studying their competition will have the best deck, period. Last tip, then we'll get started with the practice. We'll do 15 minutes each person. The last tip is one piece that I feel our industry doesn't emphasize enough, which is pitching, team, is 10% of the game. 90% of the game, let me repeat that again. Pitching is the only goal of pitching is to get meetings. That's what I want to emphasize to people. The real game behind demo days is to secure meetings from investors. So you give such a great performance that the investor listening to your demo day goes, I want to talk to that person more. 10-20% of the game is that. But the other 80% of the game is for you to convince the investor that you are the jockey that we want to bet on. So what does that mean? People can write this down. I'll repeat it 3 times. Founder POV, founder POV, founder POV. What is your point of view as a founder? So what the best founders do, or rather investors, is that they ask you a lot of deep questions around where do you see the business going? Because how investors think, team, is there's going to be 10 different teams, 10 different startups with the exact same idea. And what the investor is trying to figure out is which of these 10 founding teams will I give money to? Let me give you an example. Let's say we take Airbnb, right? Brian Chesky, Nathan Blakarchik, who's the CTO of the business, and Joe Gebbia, who's the chief design officer, CPO, chief product officer, I mean. Why did that team do so well? There's a lot of reasons, but let's focus specifically on founder point of view. They understood something. That's the secret sauce. They understood something about the industry that everybody else missed because VRBO was already a thing. HomeAway was already a thing. Couch surfing was already a thing. It's not like Airbnb reinvented the industry. People were already sleeping at other people's houses. But what Airbnb understood was a couple of things. One is that if we scale trust from a design perspective on a website like Airbnb, we can increase the TAM, which is the total addressable market. So right now, what people think is that most people don't want to sleep over at each other's houses and pay each other for it. That actually was a false assumption. The truth was people are willing to do it. It's just the challenge is, let's say Jason has the house and I'm looking for lodging, is we don't trust each other because we don't know each other. So their design-led culture made it so that Airbnb allowed you to essentially trust strangers, and that's what allowed them to scale up the platform. That's the biggest insight. The second insight was timing. Because they started the business during the 2008-2009 recession, people were more open to opening up their homes because they didn't have any choice. they started losing their jobs, they started losing their money. So they were like, okay, I might as well try Airbnb so I can pay rent next month. So they were more open to inviting strangers. So that's how they fixed the supply side of the equation. And then the last piece was customer obsession. Brian Chesky, the CEO of the business, went to like 100 different Airbnbs, pretty much stayed in Airbnbs to understand the customer better than anyone else did. And because of that, he understood a lot of insights that nobody else got. Like, hey, you should take high quality pictures or people are going to do your listing. So those three insights are just an example of what founder point of view looks like. So if one team, let's say, I don't know, BNB, came up to the same group of investors and said, yeah, I'm thinking about starting this couch surfing platform and I don't really know what's going to happen, but I think people will do this, versus Brian, who goes, recession timing, hey, I think we can lead by design here and scale up the network, and these three insights, who are you going to give money to? You're going to give money to the person who has the best founder point of view. So these question drills allow you to rethink, hey team, it's not just about the pitch, which we'll talk about for the next 43 minutes, but it's also about saying, are we communicating our founder view? Okay. And those are my 3 tips. So with that said, let's get started, Jason, with team number 1.
Awesome. No, I love all the perspectives there. Yeah, as we're getting, so we're going to have Jack Duffy, Protentis go up first. So what you're going to need to do is go to the Q&A tab, hit video Q&A, and do a hand raise, and then I'll be able to pull you up to the stage. And while you're going through that, just wanted to say, like, I love those examples. It was interesting that the Airbnb team too also actually went out and photographed. They went to the houses and photographed, and showed people what it looked like, and kind of having that founder mindset of, you know what, we're going to go experiment and do this and make it happen. And Jack, yeah, great to see you up here. Excited to have you pitch. And I'll hand it over to you to take it away. And then we're going to get live feedback from Brenden.
And I'll time you as well, Jack, for 5 minutes. Over to you, brother.
All right, sounds good. Alrighty, so hello, my name is Jack Duffy Protentis. I'm the founder and CEO of eSki, a fully electric personal watercraft startup. So a little bit about our history. So I'm actually legally blind, and because of that, I found kind of escapism in recreational vehicles due to the fact that I couldn't drive a road-going vehicle. And with that came along an appreciation for nature and getting into nature and using these vehicles to get there. But as I got older and got my degree in mechanical engineering, I realized that the vehicles I was using to get into nature were also harming the nature that I'd come to appreciate over the years. So looking at the EV industry and road-going vehicles, I realized that this emerging market of transitioning from gas vehicles to electrification is coming and is a needed market and a needed solution for these issues. So currently gas jet skis emit about 250 pounds of CO2 per hour, which equates to about 250 trees, fully grown trees per year. Additionally, gas jet skis emit 110 decibels of sound, which is the equivalent of an outdoor concert. And with the California ARB and the EU banning the sale of gasoline vehicles, this is a market that is going to need to happen, and the shift is going to have to happen. So this is a render of our current first generation model, where the name of the Trident ES1. So some of the things that make us special is the fact that we have a hot swappable battery system, which gives consumer ease of mind, as well as the rental market. It's very viable for the rental market. Along with that comes, with the electrification, reduce sound emissions, the smell of fuel, and kind of gets you back, like I said, back to connecting with nature and in there more. We also have a very big emphasis of safety. Some of the safety features we have are programmable keys that allow you to control how much power you have for, say, a child or a novice user, or again, that rental market, as well as geofencing with that same sort of logic. We also have a patented reactive brake light to allow people behind you to know that you're slowing down. And we also have off-throttle steering that reduces injuries and crashes for novice users. But with all that comes, still an emphasis on fun. So we have about 230 horsepower, an average runtime about an hour and a half, and which is comparable to high-end gasoline jet skis, but you also have all the fun of an electric motor and that instant torque. So a little more on the hot swapping battery system. So it's a patent pending system that, they said, allows consumers to have an ease of mind where, as time goes on, as they degrade, they have the ability to sub them out. And like I said, as the technology improves, you can sell them out for newer models as well. We're looking at a leasing system for those batteries. So that would create a constant flow of revenue, and again, give that consumer ease of mind, as well as having added benefit of, with 8 battery packs, 30 pounds a piece, as one dies, instead of having to replace the entire battery system, you can kind of quarantine it to just a section of that battery system. Right now, the average gas jet ski sells between $6,000 and $21,000. Currently looking to sell about $25,000. We're hoping to reduce that as time goes on. But with the reduction in maintenance and fuel, after a span of 5 years, you come down to about $18,500. The major players in the gas industry currently are not looking to electrify, and there's only one major competitor based out of Canada that is in this emerging market. The gasoline sales in North America alone, the market is a $2.3 billion a year market, and we're hoping to capture about 20% of that over the next 5 to 10 years, creating about $450 million worth of revenue. It's a little bit of our past. We attended the Miami International Boat Show in 2022. We're wrapping up our proof of concept as we speak, and we're hoping to raise about $400,000 to finish our first prototype. In the future, throughout 2023 and 2024, we're going to be developing 3 more prototypes, raising, and again, hoping to raise about $2.6 million to complete these prototypes, getting us certified, and bringing us to production-ready machines that would be, we'd hoping to make about 250 units in the first year. So that's my pitch. Thank you so much for taking the time. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And yeah.
Let's get it for Jack. Great job, Jack. Awesome.
Great job.
I know it's always stressful a little bit to go first, but great job, Jack, on taking that initiative. How do you feel?
Pretty good. That was actually the first time I've ever really pitched it. So a little nervous, but yeah.
That's okay, man. I love that you took that initiative to say, you know what, I want to present it. I want to get the feedback, and it only gets better from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the game. Jason, did you want to jump in with something? I saw you were unmiked, then we could jump into the feedback.
Oh, no, I like the same thing that, you took the leap. If this is your first presentation, you did an amazing job kind of, and yeah, it's always hard to like get up on stage, do the first one live, and, definitely applaud you for that. And really love the design you had too, where we actually got to see what it looked like, and, didn't have to wonder or visualize it. We could see it in action. So yeah, love to hear, Brendan's questions and thoughts as we get going here.
For sure. Thanks, Jason. So I won't ask you too many questions, Jack. I'll just ask you 1 or 2, and then we'll get into the feedback for 5 minutes or so. And I want to get your feedback on my feedback too, to make sure it serves you. So the first question, Jack, is, or your teammate, is, who is the ideal customer for your watercraft vehicle?
Yeah, so the ideal customer is sort of that 25 to 50-year-old, kind of upper middle class, who ideally has like a a lake house, because that really allows you to kind of lean into the hot swapping aspect of batteries, where you can go out, come back, and swap the batteries out. And in my research and my personal experience, most people who have a lake house are only taking the jet ski out for about half an hour to an hour ish. And that's actually why I picked electric jet skis, because that's really where EV technology right now can really lend itself well to.
Right. So let me rephrase what you said and correct me if I got this wrong. So you're saying that the people who have lake houses right now, the people who are using jet skis, they do it for 30 minutes because they run out of fuel, or whereas if they had your tech, they could go on jet skis for longer periods of time? Or did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, no, it's more of just riding a jet ski is a pretty physical activity,
Gotcha.
and especially on smaller ponds and lakes, kind of gets a little boring after a bit. So after a couple hours, like in a half an hour to an hour, most people are either physically drained or have just sort of had their fun for a bit, and will come back in.
Gotcha. So, like, if I and then to my last question, then I'll give you some feedback. So let's say somebody came up to you and said, "I'm making a decision between buying your vehicle and let's say a competitor's that's gasoline run or something else." Well, obviously, I don't know the water ski business as you do. What would and if you had three kind of sentences to compel them to buy your vehicle over theirs, what would be like? Let's say I'm the other vendor. What would be the other three? What would be those three reasons why you'd compel me to buy yours?
So that would be almost no maintenance, is a huge component. The silent aspect, there's a lot of people on lakes who their neighbors hate that they have jet skis, and there's actually a lot of noise ordinances that are coming up to ban gas jet skis. And also, it's just the instant torque of an EV is incomparable. So
Can you elaborate on the third point? So almost no maintenance, perfect, lots of noise, and then the third one. Could you expand on that?
yeah, so gasoline engines take a couple of seconds to spool up. Especially there's a lot of the gas jet skis that have the horsepower that we're running are either turbocharged or supercharged. So it takes a little bit to kind of get into that power. Whereas with an EV, you have that instant torque where you can, when you're getting up on plane, which is like when you get up on top of the water, it's called getting out of the hole. You can get out of the hole and up on plane substantially quicker than a gas jet ski because of that fact.
Awesome, Jack. Thanks for sharing, man. Great answers to the questions too. So here's the feedback, team, and this is not just for Jack. This is for all of you. So how I like to give pitch feedback. Let me give the context. I always like to emphasize as a pitch coach that the founder always knows more about the business than I do. So my hope today is I'm going to give you like 7 or 8 ideas, and then it'll be up to you, Jack, to pick the 2 to 3 that make sense for you and your business, and then you implement it. And it's true for everyone else presenting today, or just in general when you get feedback from people. There's a great quote for those of you who are taking notes by Patrick Collison, for the founder of Stripe. He says the best founders listen to everyone and ignore everyone all at the same time. So what does that mean? That means great founders listen to everyone's perspectives and then make a decision and say, you know what, I don't really agree with 2 or 3 of Brendan's points, but those other 3 points that Brendan mentioned, I should probably implement those 3 things. So that's just the frame I want us to be aligned on. Is that good for you as well, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's get into the feedback, man. Love the confidence, love the way that you speak. So let's just jump into what we can do better. So the first thing that I think you can do better at is don't start with the word history. Let's go into the history of this. I'd rather you just jump into the problem and push the pain more. So I'll give you an example. You actually mentioned this a lot in your personal story, but I want you to add a little bit more spice to that. I'll give you an example. When I was a kid doing jet skis or doing this with my family, this is me being you for a second, Jack. There was a lot of struggles. One, I'm blind, but the other piece too is there's a lot of noise, and I would always get noise complaints from everybody on this, so I wouldn't even enjoy the experience. And the second piece is there's so much maintenance. It would cost me on average. You could do research on this. You probably know the number. It costs me it costed my family like $1,000 a month just to do this maintenance, and it caused all of these problems. But then I realized in my research that I'm not the only one with this problem. Unfortunately, 70,000 people or 7 million people in the world struggle with these same issues, and 80% of them this is research. I'm just making up numbers here, right, Jack?
Yeah.
I'm just helping you kind of how to pitch this. And 80% of them say after buying their first jet ski, they stop using it after 15 days because of all of the noise complaints. Notice what I'm doing here, Jack. I'm painting a compelling picture for your product. Let me pause here. Is that resonating with you so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Awesome, man. So it's not you know, I realized really quickly from the way you were answering the questions, you have all the answers. Like, I'm sure as I'm saying this, you're like, I have that number. I know that number. I know that number. So it's not necessarily about, oh, you don't know it. You obviously know what you're doing. Like, I love the detail of how you're explaining things. It's more about saying, are we ordering and prioritizing that information in a way that gets people, so let me put that again for those taking notes. Are we ordering and prioritizing that information in a way that people go, huh, like, I really need this jet ski. I should probably buy this. So, example, let's say I was coaching you, I would say I would expand less on your battery functionality, because that's not one of your main value props. Like, when I asked you why should I buy one jet ski or another, you said almost no maintenance, lots of noise, and instant torque. So I would just focus on those three, which brings me to number 2, and this is for all of the founders here today. You want to focus your feature set data on the specific features that help you stand out the most. So I'll give you an example. As the founder, we get into the weeds a lot. We have like 10 features that we love and adore about this product, but there's 3 out of 10 that the end consumer, who doesn't really know that much about jet skis, as to use Jack's product as an example, will go like, I need that product because of these 3 things. So in other words, what I would do if I was you, but you don't have to take the advice, just take what you like, is I would scratch out the battery explanations, the minute that you spend talking about the safety features. You could mention that for 10 seconds if you want, but really expand more on, hey, this is why this customer will 100% buy the product. And here's a good way of thinking about this team. As a venture capitalist, what I'm looking for in a 5-minute pitch, I'm not a VC anymore, but what, as from a VC perspective, is in 5 minutes, can you convince me that the likelihood of you getting product market fit is really, really high? Whereas when I was listening to this, I was like, man, this technology is really cool. I'm just having trouble picturing in my mind, who is that one person in the world where this is a no-brainer to buy this product. And if you can paint that picture, man, your pitch is going to be solid. Like, you're already doing this well for your first go. If you do this another 4 or 5 times, like, you'll be solid. 2 last things, then I'll get your thoughts on the feedback, what you thought of it, is for competitors, what I would encourage you to do, obviously study them, but which you've already done. But the other piece is make the slides more visual, replace the names with logos so it's more visual for somebody who's just watching one of 10 different pitches. The before last one is show off your traction more. Let me give some ideas to the group, because I'm sure a lot of you are more early stage and you're thinking, I don't have any customers. Brenden, my product's still in development. Like, I need to raise 400K to get. So the way I think about it is traction can be explained through different ways. Competitions that you've won in pitches. Non-dilutive funding is a big miss I see with founders. Like, let's say you've raised $20,000 in non-dilutive funding. Show that off. Yeah, we've raised this much money, so that you're showing people that you're making progress. And the third way you can show traction as an early stage business is to explain how quickly you're moving through things. So I'll give you an example. We started the company in January and we already built our first MVP in March. Oh, wow. Okay. These guys are moving quickly. Like, they're showing me signs that they're going to move faster. And investors always want to bet on winners, right? They always want to bet on people that it seems like they're going to be successful with or without them. Which brings me to my last point. I want you to get more excited about the close, Jack. Sell us on the vision. I want to live in a world where everybody uses jet skis. I'm tired of people buying a jet ski, using it for 20 minutes, and never touching it again. And that experience that I had as a kid, I want for every single person that buys a jet ski. And we believe that with ski watercraft, this technology will get people excited to go on a jet ski every weekend without a single complaint from their neighbors. So join us on that revolution of reinventing the ski watercraft business. Thank you so much. So notice how it's way more compelling, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great.
Amazing, man. So let me take a pause and let me just get you to self-reflect for 60 seconds. What was your biggest ahas takeaways from the feedback that you received today? Great job.
Yeah, so I guess sort of before on the reflection aspect, my one question I do have is, so one struggle I kind of find with in terms of competitor analysis is, you have the aspect of trying to convince somebody to go from gas to electric, but also trying to, there is one other electric jet ski company out there, trying to also have them pick, me over the competitor in EV jet skis, which is where the hot swap and batteries comes from. So what would be your recommendation for that?
Great question, Jack. So there's a couple of ways you can tackle this, and of course, you know the business better than I do. So I'll just give you different avenues, and you'll select the one that makes the most sense to you. I think the framework that I would approach it with, Jack, is the way you explain competitors is specifically what is it about them, their products that they don't understand about the industry. Like, what are 2 or 3 things that you feel you get about the market that they don't? So I'll give you an example. Let's say we take Tesla, which obviously isn't a direct comparable, but will give us some ideas here because I'm sure you had some inspiration from Elon's work.
Yeah.
So here's how Elon explained Tesla, and he does it so well in the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. I think you should all read that book if you haven't already. But basically, there's a chapter in that book about why Elon Musk was one of the only few clean tech startups in energy. Why did he become successful and everyone else kind of lost? And the reason that he explained it, except for like Rivian in recent years, but the reason why he was successful, Jack, and the rest of the team, was because he specifically argued that no one's going to buy a car for climate change. Nobody. What they want is they want a really cool product. So what I'm going to do, and this was Elon's master plan from the beginning, I'm going to sell a really high premium car for $120,000 to $150,000 a year. I'm going to sell it to Leonardo DiCaprio and all the other big celebrities so I can make high margin. Then I'm going to use the margins from that initial car to then scale down and make the product more accessible. So what he's doing here, Jack, is he's explaining about a point of view about the industry that nobody else had at the time. So there's a couple of avenues. One, just reflect on that idea. What is that other jet ski company not getting that I'm getting? And it could be something more than just the battery too. It could be battery life, but I'm sure there's other things. And the second thing that I would encourage you to do, though you might have already done it, is talk to customers who use the other jet ski, unless it's still in development. If not, that doesn't make any sense. But if it's still, is it actually? Let me ask you, because I'm just rambling here a little bit. Is your competitor still in development, or can you buy that product tomorrow?
Kind of a loaded question. They've delivered, I think, about 250 units, and the waiting list is like years long for pre-orders. I know a lot of people are pretty upset over that, and a lot of their kind of numbers have fluctuated. So I haven't heard of any customers getting them yet. I think it's sort of like kind of founder edition, and that's sort of all I know of. So trying to find those 250 people has been tricky.
Okay, gotcha. So thanks for that context, Jack. So here's what I would say. I would try my best because obviously it's hard to do if the product isn't on the market yet. But I think the argument you can make in the pitch that's truly valid is nobody can buy one currently. So it's a huge white space. Because even your competitor, you don't have to shit on them or anything, but you talk about the fact that, hey, like for example, they released 250 units, but customers are currently struggling to get their first jab, which creates an opportunity for us to deliver a superior product because our competition, for the customer who is more environmentally friendly, they don't have a solution in the market yet, and the number of players who are currently in that space is really, really small. So that's the way I would approach it with the limited information I have right now, obviously, Jack. So does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, man. Any other questions?
No, I think that's it.
Awesome. Was that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Awesome.
All right. Great
Yeah,
job, Jack.
amazing job. And yeah, as I'm pulling Jerry up, just wanted to give you another shout out for, coming up, doing your first pitch here live. And, great job, great feedback, and excited to see, your next version from here.
Thank you.
Awesome, Jack. Great work.
Awesome. And yeah, Jerry, excited to have you pitch with us. You'll see a screen share button right next to the camera at the bottom of the screen. And whenever you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Can you see that okay?
No, not on my side.
You don't have it?
No.
I don't know how to share this. Sorry.
Yeah, so it'll be right next to the camera button. There's a screen share. Oh, yeah, a screen share, and then you can either do entire screen, window, or a tab.
Okay. Let's see that. Does that work?
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Shapiro, the co-inventor of a device that will help 1 billion women in the world deal with the problem of incontinence. The past 4,000 years, they've dealt with it by wearing absorbent pads, and we want to get rid of those pads and replace it with a device that stops the leaks. My co-inventor is a medical assistant who has worked with incontinent women for over 20 years. I've worked with them from another company also over 20 years. So we're both very experienced in dealing with incontinent women and knowing what issues they face. This all started a long time ago when my partner Sherry visited a nursing home to see her relatives, and she looked around and said, "Grandma, why are all those people wearing diapers?" "Well, Sherry, because they are incontinent." "Grandma, when I grow up, I promised to do something to help those people." Well, 36 years later, Sherry co-invented the device to keep all those people dry. It's the Fowell Continence device. Now, the demand is huge. For younger women under 45, 25% of them are incontinent. Middle-aged women, it's 40%, and women over 70, it's 50%. So that adds up to a total of 1 billion incontinent women worldwide. Excuse me. Now, the solution to their incontinence is to prevent the leak. Well, they normally leak when they start coughing or sneezing. That raises the pressure in their abdomen. The pressure squeezes on their bladder and squeezes out some urine. So we put a valve in her urethra that's pressure sensitive. So when that sneeze or cough starts, the valve shuts and blocks the urine flow. Then after the sneeze is over, pressure returns to normal and they can urinate normally. We've clinically tested this and verified all of that. The market is huge. If each woman is paying $2,000 a year, that's a TAM of $2 trillion a year in sales. And because incontinence doesn't go away, we would have those sales year after year worldwide. When we're starting, we're only going to address the market in the US and Europe. And we will achieve, well, we'll be in the market to get $100 billion in sales. That's our sum. But the important point for investors is that we will produce a double-digit return on investment for investors at the time that we are acquired through an M&A transaction. Now, how do we monetize that innovation that women need? Well, first of all, the device is disposable. It's replaced 3 times a year. Why? Because the urethra has a lot of bacteria, and they like to cultivate any device put in the urethra, and that will cause encrustation and discomfort. By mixing an antimicrobial into the materials of the device, we kill any bacteria that try to settle on it, prevent the biofilm forming, and prevent the encrustation. Now, the doctor gets reimbursed with existing CPT codes for taking the old one out, putting the new one in. $500 each time, or $1,500 a year per patient. With a typical 120 patients in their practice that are incontinent, that adds $180,000 of new revenue per year to the practice for every doctor that's treating these women. How do women get it? Well, it's a prescription-only device, so we stock the device with the doctors, but the doctor doesn't sell it. The patient pays the distributor $3 for $2,000, and the distributor can bill the insurance company directly, or the patient can pay, and then the insurance company reimburse them. The cost of what she's doing right now is $2,300 a year. So by going to $2,000, even if she pays out of pocket, she's saving money. But not just money, time. So patients are changing their diapers 10 times a day. And by not having to do that, they save 40 hours over the 4 months, which is much more they save than the extra hour it takes to go see a doctor 2 more times a year than usual. We have a great team to solve the problem. I've been working with incontinent women since 2002. Sherry Grantham has been working with them since 1997. Judy Isaacson and Peter are people I've worked with at a nonprofit previously for several years. Judy's expertise in global medical marketing. Peter's in finance. In fact, he was in charge of finance for 21 subsidiaries of Smith & Nephew, which is a medical device company. We have a great team. What we're looking for is a first tranche of our seed round of 1.5 million. And that's because our device is so innovative that it has to go through a special path for the FDA called De Novo 510K. And to get through that path, you must do a pivotal clinical trial. And then it takes about 8 months for the FDA to go through all the data and approve it. So we need money for that. Before we start selling and before we have regulatory approval, we need to raise another $1.5 million tranche because we want to hire regional sales managers, have them start going around with the distributor salespeople and talking to the doctors, the potential customers. The distributors have a established trust relationship with those doctors, and so we're leveraging that to help them trust us to introduce this product. And just before we go to market, we'll actually raise another $2 million for inventory, et cetera. And then we'll be exiting with a sales of $414 million, 80% gross margin, and excuse me, a valuation of $1.3 billion. Thanks very much. And these are some of the companies that we've talked to that are interested in acquiring us.
Amazing, Jerry.
Should I stop sharing?
Yep, you're good to stop sharing. I can see why. I can see why you're so great at pitching. Part of me is thinking, why do you even need my help? I think you're all good. So I think what I would start with, let's comment on what Jerry did really well in this pitch. I think that'll be really helpful for the team. One that I absolutely loved is the personalization. Right, he went into the why at the beginning around his partner in the business. What was her grandmother's struggles around this and solving this problem? I thought that was really well articulated. And the different ways of how to structure the pitch as well was really well done, so that people clearly understand, okay, this is why women need this product and the future. You actually kind of remind me, Jerry, I'm sure you've seen the movie. It's a movie called Padman. Maybe you've seen it or not, but it's I think you should check it out. It's very similar, just older technology. It was about an Indian man who changed the world but he sold women's pads before they didn't exist in India. So it's a really fascinating movie. I think you'll enjoy, and it's a real story. And I think you might get some inspiration there. In terms of what you can do better, I mean, these are just thoughts. So feel free not to implement any of them, but I'll just give you some ideas, and maybe one or two will resonate with you. I would say the first one is to prioritize the feature sets. What I noticed in some of your slides is you have 10 amazing features about the product, but for someone who's watching a 5-minute pitch all day, let's say they're watching 10-20, they might forget all of those feature sets. So I think keeping that for the informal one-on-one conversation makes a lot of sense. But for the 5-minute demo day pitch, I think you asked me by email, how do we order this correctly, Brenden? So here I would approach it, and then feel free to ask me a follow-up after. Is for the demo day, I would focus on the 3 most interesting features and include visuals. So I didn't see a lot of visuals in the deck, like more images. We could hire a designer for that; it's pretty cheap. And then the other piece is when you get into the formal meeting, when you're with the VC, when you're with the investor, then you could expand more on here are the 10 other features that we didn't talk about in that deck. So that's one way how I would approach it personally. The second piece that I would think about, and then we'll get to the third one. The second one is really to show off your traction. So I remember the email you sent a few days ago that you've already had a lot of success. And I think showing that off a little bit will definitely help. You don't need to overdo it, but you could say something like, out of the 30 competitions that we've won in the last 18 months, we've been able to raise $75,000 in non-dilutive funding to help us with our projects. Right now is you're signaling to the world that, hey, we're going to raise the 1.5 anyways. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or something. We're going to win. We're already successful. But you're just showing that off. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that I don't know that you as the CEO of the business, you'll know how to show off better with those tractions. So non-dilutive funding is one of them. The different pitch competition. You talk about the most impressive one that you've won that venture capitalists know about. Those are just some examples, or the uniqueness of the team, how you've been able to assemble people really quickly, and how no other team in the business has the level of experience we do that are tackling this specific problem. So just show off a little bit more. That's all. And then the third piece is not for this pitch, but for let's say a demo day. Let's say you're at a pitch. I would add a little vision on the end too. So I would close the pitch with something more like, every day when I wake up, I always think about, Sherry. I always think about that person. So I would loop back that personal story and say, help us revolutionize the world by, I'm just making stuff up here to kind of frame this better,
Yeah.
on how we can bring this technology that Sherry so desperately wanted 35 years ago to the world. And with your help, we can take this business, we can bring this product to millions of women across the world, not just in the United States and Canada, but to developing countries. To this, you're really pulling the heartstrings of what you're doing, and that will get, I mean, everyone's going to buy into you anyways, but this will increase the buy-in even more. And that's my feedback. How does that resonate with you?
It sounds great. At least you didn't say that I should wear a wig and a dress, because only a woman could present this properly.
That's why I think Padman, I'm actually surprised you haven't seen that movie. So I think that's actually the takeaway. He did it as a man. And I feel if you watch that movie, I know it's super random. I've never given the advice before in my career that you should watch a movie, but if you watch it, I think it'll be super inspiring. You'll look at that and go like, oh, I'm that person, but for the modern day. So that's just the thought.
It's great. Thanks a lot. Let's
I like
listen
that.
to the last guy.
Of
Go.
course. Thanks, Jerry. And I'll link the movie to you. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. No, great job. And yeah, Dr. Abdulila, yeah, would love to have you raise your hand, and you go to the Q&A tab, hit video Q&A, and raise your hand. We'll pull you up to the stage. Just wanted to make a comment as we're doing that. I've seen Jerry's longer pitch before, and more of the 10-minute version, and I think you did a great job like cutting down and picking the right information to put into a shorter deck. So as everybody's going through that process, it's the hardest version is the shorter and shorter you get it. So yeah, definitely like take some inspiration there on what you can cut down and put into the most important pieces that your audience needs to hear.
Absolutely.
And just waiting. Let's see. Yeah, Dr. Abdulila, do you see the Q&A, video Q&A on the right side? And if you do, would love to pull you up to the stage to present.
And while Jason is doing that, for those of you who want to keep in touch, you can just add me on LinkedIn if you have any questions for me, or you can attend one of our communication trainings. We do a free one every 2 weeks that you can jump in on as well.
Cool. Yeah, looks like having some trouble connecting there. But yeah, I would love to have, I'll share some links here as well where, we
Is Abdul not able to pitch? Do you want me to just close off with some closing thoughts then, Jason?
Sure, yeah, that'd be great.
Of course, happy to. All right, team. So let's go ahead and summarize what are some of the lessons that we learned from the two people that are pitching. I would say the first one is your pitch is always an ever-evolving idea. And I think Jerry was a great example of this on the call, of someone who's already found a lot of success with pitching and sharing ideas, but there's always little tweaks that can be adjusted. So don't see this as, oh, I need to just raise money. See it more as a lifelong journey, because all of us who want to build this business, we're going to be in it for a decade. Some of us might get lucky. Maybe we'll exit a little bit earlier. But I think the big one is that it's going to be a long journey. So getting used to the idea of seeing this as a habit rather than a one-time thing is what will allow us to really push the boundaries of how to pitch and how to share ideas. That's takeaway number one. And by the way, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to jump those in the chat. I know we got 5 minutes. I'm just summarizing, but if you have any questions, you're welcome to put those in the chat as well. The second takeaway is prioritizing and ordering the information. I would say the biggest piece around that a lot of founders miss, and we saw some examples of that today. Most people don't show off enough. You need to show off the traction that you already have. Here's a good way of thinking about it. The best companies need to feel like a great pitch needs to feel like a rocket ship taking off, where everyone feels that people are going to give you money. And that's the illusion that you want to create in your pitch. So I'll give you an example that comes to mind from historic times, obviously. When Mark Zuckerberg raised money for Facebook, after his seed round check, he famously went in sweatpants to like every investment firm because he knew in his mind he was going to raise. And you want to be that startup. You want to give every possible signal, every possible hint to the VC that you're the company that they're going to miss out on, that you're the golden star. Which brings me to the last point that I want to share today, which is, how do investors make decisions? In the chat, let's see. What is the number one reason? Let's see if people know this, Jason. What is the number one reason why investors invest in companies? Does anybody know in the chat? This is often, a lot of people don't know this, so I think I'll close on this. Go ahead and type in the chat, the founder. Close, Alicia, but it's not necessarily the founder. Any other thoughts? ROI potential. Jack's got it. I'm surprised Jack got the answer. FOMO, the fear of missing out. Every great venture capitalist, and there is no exception, team. Every great venture capitalist, whether it's Chris Sacca, whether it's Bill Gurley, or whether anybody, they've all had misses. They've all missed out on a big deal. Some people it was Google. Some people like Chris Sacca, he missed on Airbnb, right? So everyone's different. So what you want to create in your pitch is that you're the one that they're going to miss out on if they don't invest. And the best way to do this is FOMO, the fear of missing out. So if you really go into that meeting and say, hey, look, we're doing our fundraising round. We have around 30 minutes for today's conversation, and I have like 20 others. That's when you fundraise. You want to stack meetings on top of each other, right? So really giving that illusion that you're busy. But I think the big piece in your pitch really comes down to traction. I force my founders to write traction first, before problem, before solution, before everything, because they always forget to put it in the deck. Not because it's the most important section. Obviously, problem solution is the most important section in the deck, but because the founders don't put it in the deck. So I want all of you, put it as a homework today. I'm going to invest 30 minutes today. I'm going to invest 30 minutes this week and write down everything that's awesome about my company. I've raised, even if it's $25,000, it's more than the guy who's raised nothing, right? Or the girl who's raised nothing. I've raised this much in funding. I've hired this much staff. I'm 60% in my product development. I've already filed a patent for my technology. Boom. I'm in the process of FDA approval. Just add in, stack on those wins, and really reserve 30 to 45 seconds, or at least 30 seconds in a 5-minute pitch just to gloat about those big pieces. That's what gets investors. Let me give you an example. And Michael Siebel from YC says it so well. He says, there's nothing like money. So like, let's say you're listening to an idea and you're a venture capitalist and you don't believe it, but at the end they go, yeah, and we've raised $3 million of funding. They go, oh yeah, I don't know what the idea is. I don't understand it, but like, you're probably doing something right. So I should probably talk to you. Yes, no matter how big or small. Absolutely, Alicia. Right? It ain't bragging if you've done it. Absolutely, Dave Hall. You're 100% right. And the biggest mistakes I see with founders is they just don't talk about it. They go straight into their timelines, they go straight into their vision, but it still becomes a concept versus gloating about that. And that's my time today, team. It was such a pleasure to be here today. Once again, if you have any questions or you want to attend one of our free workshops, kind of a value add we do, you're welcome to do that as well. But if you have any questions, you're welcome to message me directly on LinkedIn. I answer all my DMs, and I'm more than happy to serve and add value. Thanks for having me, Jason and team. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Great job. Great feedback all around. And yeah, loved all the presentations, questions, and interactions as well. So this link that you used to join into our presentation today, within 24 hours, so by tomorrow, you'll be able to click the same link, go back and watch the recording as well, to be able to, check out the pitches and the feedback again. And yeah, we'll send out follow-up emails in our newsletters and updates on future events and other opportunities to be a part of these as well. So yeah, really appreciate everybody coming out, and thanks again for an awesome presentation today.
Thanks for having me, Jason. So great to see the pitches, and looking forward to continue the collaboration. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.